Hi, this is Chris from HOFA, and today we'd like to show you how quantization can harm your hip-hop beats and how to reverse that kind of damage. We'll be handling a style of drum programming that was shaped by the members of the Soulquarians, such as D'Angelo, J Dilla or Questlove, amongst others. This style is also referred to as swag drumming or drunk drumming. We want to show you how you can play these beats by hand, how to program them in your DAW, and how they can be created by applying music theory and maths. Before we start though, if you're interested in topics such as this one, and if you want to learn more about audio engineering and music production, have a look at our website at HOFA-College.com. You've been hearing our first example in the background. This beat can be classified as lo-fi hip-hop, and until now, you've been hearing the unquantized version. What you'll hear now is what happens when we quantize this. Listen closely and concentrate on what happens to the shaker and the hi-hat. Our beat is losing a lot of its groove. It sounds very mechanical, machine-like, and maybe a little bit boring. A simple way around this problem is to play the beat by hand. Especially the way J Dilla used the MPC was important for this technique and shaped the history of music. It's not about hitting the beats exactly. Sometimes the hits come in a bit early, sometimes they're a bit late, which adds a lot of feeling to this beat. To make this a bit more understandable, I'll play the single elements of the beat one by one. I'll start with the shaker. By playing every second eighth note somewhere in between a straight eighth note and an eighth note triplet, I'll get a nice groove. More about that later. We'll duplicate the shaker notes for the hi-hat. I'll also compress the MIDI velocities and bring them up a little. Next up, the snare. I'm trying to have it play a little bit rushed for some more energy. Now for the kick drum. I'm trying to play the kick drum pretty tight on the downbeat, while I play the rest of the hits a little bit laid back. I'll also add a few variations. Now, that's a very humanized version of our beat. Looking at the editor, we can see where some hits were missed. There are some kicks and snares that are a bit early or a bit late, such as here. But most of all, the hi-hats don't sound that mechanical anymore. The next technique we want to take a look at is moving some elements of the drum kit around manually. We're using the quantized beat as a basis. We'll be starting with the hi-hats. Kick and snare as well as hi-hats are on separate channels, but by selecting both events and clicking, we can edit both at the same time in the MIDI editor. First, let's move the off hi-hats back a little. Luckily, the off hi-hats are placed an octave above the hi-hats on the beat, which makes moving a lot more easy. This is already adding a lot of bounce. To increase this effect, let's move the snare a bit to the front. If we overdo this, it will feel as if the snare was hitting the 16th note before, so let's move it back again. For some extra groove, we can now move the hi-hats that are played at the same time as the snare. Let's push these back a little. Again, let's not overdo this, as it will make the groove a bit too sloppy. For this groove, let's move them back again. Let's have a look at the music theory now. The grooves that we're handling in this video are all somewhere between a binary and ternary feeling, which means they are neither entirely straight or triplets. Instead, the subdivisions played on the hi-hat are somewhere in between. Mathematically, we can place the notes between the straight and triplet eighth note by making our grid finer. In Cubase, we can use the quantized tuplet function for this. Values such as 2, 4, 8 and so on will give us 8th, 16th and so on notes as grid, which means we get a ratio of 1:1 between the notes before the off hi-hat and the notes behind the off hi-hat. Values such as 3 and 6 give us triplets. With 3 as our value, we get a ratio of 2:1. What we want, however, is a note that is somewhere in between these values, and that's why we set our grid to quintuplets, which means that we divide every beat into 5 parts. This gives us a ratio of 3:2. Let's listen to the groove quantized to quintuplets. Little variations, such as the additional hi-hat at the end of the first measure or the flam at the middle of the second measure, only become possible by using this grid. For more possibilities, we can set the grid to every number we please, which gives us more positions to place our twisted kind of hi-hats. For example, this allows us to create a septuplet swing with a ratio of 4:3. We have to be careful though when using a grid of nonuplets, I hope I'm saying that right, where we divide all beats by 9. As these are also divisible by 3, we have to watch out not to place our hi-hat on the 7th nonuplet, as this would result in a ratio of 6:3 or 2:1, and this would result in a triplet feeling. Instead, we'll place the hi-hat on the 6th nonuplet and return to our wonky ratio of 5:4. As you can see, it is indeed possible to get this kind of groove with quantization, but you might get the best results by combining these techniques. My approach would always be to try playing the beat by myself first, then using a suitable grid to quantize, and then manually moving the beats by hand and ear. If you want to dive deeper into this topic, there's a playlist below featuring a few pieces of music, as well as some videos which will provide some more information. Have fun!